In this video, we are going to discuss about the chapter The Grey Stone by Alison Uttley. Uttley was a science teacher and she wrote several books for children and about animals. In this lesson, we will read about a little girl, Amanda, and a grey stone that finds its way to her house. The writer in the story attributes various human qualities and features to the stone. Now let us read the story to know how the stone arrives at Amanda's house. One fine day, little Amanda brings a grey stone home, kicking it all the way from the school gate. She kicks it till the doorstep and goes in to tell her mother about school that day. One beautiful day, when little Amanda was coming back from school to her home, she noticed a grey stone, and as she was walking, she started kicking the stone all the way until she reached the doorstep of her home. She then left the stone outside and quickly entered her house to tell her mother about whatever happened in her school that day. The stone lay by the doormat and stared around. For years it had been lying in the roads, kicked here and there. It had been broken off a cliff by a roadman. For many years, the stone was lying on the roads and was kicked by the passers-by from one place to another. The stone was broken off a cliff, that is, a high rock, by a roadman. That means a person who makes or repairs roads. But now the stone found itself in a new place, that is, it lay by the doormat of Amanda's house, and it started looking all around. The stone had wanted to go to school or to see the inside of a house, but the doors were always shut. It had never been as close to a door as this. The stone had wanted to go to a school and also wanted to see the inside of a house, but no one took it. This was for the first time that it found itself lying so close to a door. "Prop the door open, Amanda," said a voice. Amanda stepped outside, picked up the stone and put it inside the house, against the door. The stone was actually inside the house. This is real life, it thought. The stone then heard a voice asking Amanda to open the door by placing something against it. Amanda went outside, picked up the stone and placed it against the door, and thus the stone was finally inside the house. And it thought that this is what real life looks like. It pushed hard and kept the door open while Amanda's mother went out and soon returned with a pile of clothes. Then someone closed the door and it was safe inside. The stone tried very hard to keep the door open when Amanda's mother went out and came back with a pile of clothes. Then all of a sudden, someone closed the door. It found itself safe inside the house. It sat in a corner, listening to the sounds and watching the sights inside the house. It watched the cat and the dog and the baby in the cradle. When everyone had gone to sleep and the lights were put out, it listened to the voices which are heard only in the night. It listened to the mice scampering, the grandfather clock going tick-tock, the table grunting and the chairs squeaking. Sitting in a corner, the stone watched the cat and the dog and even the baby sleeping in the cradle. After everyone had gone to sleep and the lights were switched off, the stone was still awake and listened to the various sounds and voices which are heard only during the night, like the sound of the mice running, the tick-tock of the grandfather's clock, and the short and low sounds of the chairs and the tables. "They will throw you out," cried the voices. "But I don't want to go," replied the stone. "I have been waiting for this for thousands of years, and I want a little comfort in my old age. What shall I do?" Here, we see that the voices said the stone that it will be thrown out of the house. Then it replied that it does not want to go out, as it had been waiting to be inside a house for thousands of years. And now, since it was old, so it wanted a little peace and comfort. "Disguise yourself," they suggested. So the mice dragged Amanda's velvet cap and pulled it over the top of the stone. The scarf fell down from behind the door and wrapped itself around the stone. Amanda's boots moved in front of it. Everyone gave the stone an idea to disguise itself. That means to change the way it looked so that no one can recognize who it was. The mice then helped it by pulling Amanda's velvet cap over the top of the stone. The scarf fell down and wrapped itself around the stone. Even Amanda's boots moved in front of it in order to hide it. All day and night, the stone hid there. The next morning, a broom dragged it into the light. "What's a stone doing here?" asked Amanda's mother. The stone was hiding there the entire day and night. But in the next morning, when Amanda's mother was sweeping the house, she saw the stone and asked Amanda about it. "It's the doorstop," exclaimed Amanda, remembering how proud the stone felt. It was the first time it had a name. Amanda's father picked up the stone. He was about to fling it out. Then he changed his mind. He examined the stone. He gave it a tap with a hammer. A few pieces of the stone chipped off. When Amanda replied to her mother that it's the doorstop, the stone felt very proud because it was the first time that it got a name. Amanda's father then picked up the stone to throw it away, but suddenly he changed his mind and started to look at it very carefully. Then he hit the stone by using a hammer, and it broke into small pieces. "What are you doing, father?" asked Amanda, as she stared up at him. "See here," he said, "this is a fossil." Inside the stone was a fern, perfect and beautiful. The tiny leaves were as clear as if they had been pressed into the stone that same day. Amanda observed whatever happened, and then she asked her father about it. He showed her the fossil, that is, a part of a plant or animal that lived thousands of years ago and got pressed into a rock. Inside it, they even saw a very beautiful fern plant whose tiny leaves looked very clear and perfect. "The place for this is on the mantelpiece," said Amanda's father. So they placed the stone there. Every time a visitor came home, it was taken down and shown to them in all its beauty. Amanda's father then decided to keep the stone on a shelf on top of the fireplace in a room which is called as mantelpiece. Whenever someone visited their home, they used to take down the stone and show its beauty. Thus, in this way, the stone finally found a safe place for itself.